My bad, Uzair, go ahead.
So the theme of the Halaqa today is about enhancing productivity, especially enhancing productivity during times of uncertainty, right? And it's without a doubt that given everything that's happening right now, given everything that's happening, in this country, in the state, in the world, we're living in very uncertain times, right? I'm sure if you guys go outside, for everyone that's living in New York, and I'm sure even the people outside of New York, if you guys go outside, if you guys walk around, if you guys just go for a walk around the neighborhoods, you guys are seeing that everything is just closed, right? Schools are closed, workplaces are closed, businesses are closed, even the masajids are closed, right? And for most of us that are on this call right now, and even I think for most of us that are on the call, even for our parents, this is the first time that we've ever seen something even remotely like this, right? We've never experienced, this sort of worry or this sort of fear that we're experiencing now. And for many of us, it's sort of a wake-up call, right? Because it shows us how sensitive we really are, and it shows us how sensitive life really is. And for those of us that are from New York, which is most of us, especially for us, we sort of have this New York mentality where we think that we're sort of unstoppable, right? We sort of think that nothing could stop us. We're always grinding, we're always working, and we always got places to be. We always got stuff to do. Nothing can stop us from going about our daily lives, right? But now, out of nowhere, literally within a matter of days, everything that we had planned just suddenly came to a halting stop, right? And it came to a halting stop due to something that's completely out of our control. And the crazy thing really isn't, what's happening to us right now. I think what's even more crazier than that is the fact that no one really knows when it's all going to end, right? No one really knows if we're going to be in these circumstances for another week. No one knows if this is going to last for another month. No one knows if it's going to be like this until the summertime. And yesterday I was reading something and someone predicted that it's going to be happening up until the fall and the winter time, right? But the thing is that it's uncertain, right? No one knows what to expect. And just like this virus has caused uncertainty in our lives, it sort of reminds us that there's always uncertainty in our lives, right? We can plan as much as we want to plan. We can plan to do things, in a week from now. We can plan to do things in the morning, but there's always uncertainty. It's never guaranteed for you that you're actually going to be able to accomplish what you plan on accomplishing, right? The virus has stopped us, and just like the virus has stopped all of our plans, our lives are uncertain, and death can come at any time, and death can stop any plan that we're trying to make, right? Our lives are very sensitive. And there's a saying by Ibn Umar that I'm sure all of us here have heard before, but Ibn Umar used to say that if you reach the evening, then do not expect to live until the morning, and if you reach the morning, do not expect to live until the evening, and take advantage of your good health before your sickness, and take advantage of your life before your death. And our lives, as I mentioned, they're never certain, right? Just like Ibn Umar said, we can be alive in the evening, and we can make plans of stuff that we want to do tomorrow, but really the next morning is not guaranteed for us. How many of us, we were in school or we were in work and we were making plans to do things this week or next week, and just like that, out of nowhere, everything that we had planned just suddenly got canceled, right? This whole virus is evident of how uncertain our lives are. And I'm sure one thing that I've been noticing recently on social media and just, I guess, sort of the conversation that the Muslim community is having is a lot of frustration, right? That people are complaining and people are frustrated, especially around this whole idea of like the masjids being closed down, and the fact that people can't make it out. They can't go out to go pray any of their daily salahs at the masjid. Especially, no one can go out and pray Jummah at the masjid, right? And everyone's thinking to themselves that, I wish, or people are having regrets that I wish I had gone to the masjid more when it was open. And this is something that I personally have been feeling a lot myself, because for me, like where I live, the masjid is like a short walk from my house, right? It's like maybe a 5-10 minute walk from my house. But I'm thinking now to myself, how many times in the past was I just at home doing nothing, right? I had a lot of free time and I was just at home, but I didn't make it to the masjid for my salah, right? I was being lazy, or for whatever reason, I just didn't go. How many times did I skip out on praying Fajr at the masjid just because I was too sleepy and I was just too lazy to go? Just, I think, for myself and I think for most of us, Given the fact that we live in New York and there's thousands of masjids everywhere, you know, and having all these masjids so close and so accessible to us, it's a blessing, right? It's a blessing in and of itself, and it's something that I know me personally, I took it for granted, right? And I never realized how powerful and how strong that blessing is to have easily accessible masjids until it was taken away from me. I didn't realize what it meant or how easy Allah had made it for me to be able to go to the masjid until now I can't go to the masjid at all. And we know that being ungrateful and being thankless to Allah for something that Allah has given us, whose job is it to make us thankless and to make us ungrateful in that manner? It's the job of the shaitan, right? After refusing to have prostrated to Adam, shaitan has said that I will certainly come to them from before them and from behind them and from their right side and from their left side, and you, Allah, will not find most of them to be thankful. And so how often are we really being thankful to Allah, with all the blessings that He has given us, right? How often do we ever reflect upon like the freedoms that we had and our abilities to just to be able to go outside, just to be able to meet with our friends, just to be able to safely go to the masjid, just to be able to safely go out and get food or get groceries and be able to provide for our families. These are all blessings, right? These are all blessings that we were taking for granted until suddenly, this event has happened, and now suddenly it's not so easy anymore. And so now we're starting to realize, the blessings that we really had. And so when Allah takes away a blessings from a people, it's not just for no reason, right? Allah takes away blessings from people in order to show them a lesson, in order to teach them something. And in Surah Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah will not change a favor that He has bestowed upon a people until they change something from within themselves. So Allah will not, lift up and take away a blessing that He has given us until and unless we have changed something from within ourselves, right? So, we had all these blessings of peace, of security, and of freedom, but how often were we grateful for it? How often did we thank Allah for it? And now suddenly we, out of nowhere, we just don't have these, once taken for granted blessings anymore. And of course, at the same time, I know it sounds like it's very negative that suddenly, all these masajids are closed and everything is closed, and it's easy to think, oh, like now I just can't do anything at all, right? There's nothing that I can do to gain the pleasure of Allah because everything is closed for me. But of course, it's not true, right? It doesn't mean that we still cannot make the most of what we have in order to be productive with the time that we have, right? And so the question becomes that now that we're living in quarantine, now that we have all this free time, now that we're stuck at home, what's the best way to wisely spend our time, right? What's the best way to be productive? Given the fact that some stuff is close to us, given the fact that now we can't make it out to the masjids anymore, given the fact that now all these like classes that we used to attend in the past, they're all canceled, right? How can we best make use of our time? And I think one of the things that I wanted to highlight was having intentions, right? Having truthful and sincere intentions can go a really long way, right? Whenever there's a restriction on us, whenever like a certain circumstance happens that causes us not to be able to fulfill an action, for example, right now we can't go out and we can't go to the masjid anymore, right? Us just having the intention of going to the masjid, but then not being able to do so because of quarantine, Allah can grant us reward just for having that intention if it's sincere and is truthful in and of itself, right? And I want to talk a little bit about what that means to have like a sincere and truthful intention. And I'm sure most of us we know Hadith 1, probably one of the most quoted hadith, right? From Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. It talks about intentions, right? And it talks about that someone can fulfill a good action, they can do something good, but they can gain absolutely no reward from it if their intention was sincere. But at the same time, someone can also have a sincere intention, but for some reason or another they weren't able to perform the action. They can still be rewarded by Allah just for having that intention, right? And there was a hadith that someone had mentioned to me recently in relation to this that I want to briefly mention. And the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever goes to his bed with the intention of getting up and praying Qiyamul Layl, but then sleep overcomes him until the morning comes, he will have recorded for him what he had intended, and his sleep will be charity for him from his Lord. So for all of us that are now, sitting at home and we're, feeling bad and we're feeling guilty for not having gone to, the masjid for salah, or not having gone to Jummah for whatever reason, if we had a sincere intention within us, um, that, we're not for these, circumstances, we would have gone. Were it not for these restrictions, we would have gone. Then, Allah's gonna reward us regardless of us not being able to fulfill that action because of those circumstances, right? Basically, for us, being at home right now, it's sadaqah for us, right? We're getting paid time off, right? But at the same time, if the action itself is absolutely sincere and it's actually truthful, then it does have some sort of action behind it, right? We can't just um, uh, you know be at home and just say, oh yeah, I have the intention to go to the masjid, but I'm not going to go because of this reason. I'm going to be rewarded for it regardless, right? No, there has to be some sort of effort on our part in order for us to be able to gain the reward, right? You can't just jump up at an opportunity by being lazy and just gaining reward just by sitting around doing nothing. And on that matter, I want to share a short story, or a short narration. And this is regarding a time when the Prophet was telling a group of companions about the people that are going to enter Jannah without any hisab, right? They're going to enter Jannah without any questioning, without any punishment. These are people that are going to be essentially given an expedited pass to enter Jannah, right? And so after the Prophet told this group of companions about these people, there was a companion amongst them who raised his hand by the name of Ukasha, and he said, "Oh Prophet, make the dua that I'm amongst them, that I'm amongst these people." And then the Prophet replied, he said, "Anta minhum, you are amongst them." And then after that, there was another companion in the group, and he raised his hand and he said, do the same for me, like make the dua that I'm also amongst people as well. And then how did the Prophet reply to the second person? He said that Ukasha has surpassed you in that. He said, Ukasha already, beat you to this. And so when most people hear about this story, the usual takeaway is that, Ukasha had such a level of alertness of Allah that as soon as he saw an opportunity to please Allah, he jumped at it, right? And people always speak about, the good that Ukasha did, right? But there's one commentary on this hadith as well, which talks about the second person, the person who raised his hand, and the Prophet said that Ukasha already surpassed you in this. And the commentator of this hadith mentioned that this second person, he was someone who didn't deserve that station that Ukasha had. He was someone that didn't have the characteristics and the piety and the level of of righteousness that Ukasha had. And so, and the Prophet knew this, right? The Prophet knew that he wasn't amongst them, right? That his station was lower. But the Prophet, out of his good character, he didn't just call him out and say, you don't deserve this. He said that, oh, cautious surpassed you in this, so that in order not to crush the person's spirits, right? So that in hopes that the person would then develop the same level of sincerity and the same character that Ukasha had. So the second person, what did he do? He saw an opportunity, right? He saw that, oh, this is an easy opportunity for me to enter Jannah. I'm just going to raise my hand and ask the Prophet to make the dua that I'm amongst his people. But that's not how it works, right? Ukasha raised his hand and he asked, and the Prophet said that you are amongst them, because Ukasha was already putting in the work. He already, was trying to get into Jannah. He was already, making the effort, and he was, he already had good character. And so when he saw the opportunity, this was an opportunity for him. Right, and the Prophet told him that you are amongst them. The second person, he wasn't putting in the work, right? He didn't have the same level of piety and righteousness that Ukasha had, but he just saw an opportunity and he said, you know what, I'm gonna latch on to this opportunity. I'm gonna raise my hand and I'm also gonna make the same request. But that's not how it works. Just like it didn't work for the second person, but it worked for Ukasha. When we ourselves want to take advantage of this opportunity of still getting, rewards with the intentions that we have, we need to really ask ourselves: are we latching on, right? Are we latching on to the, to this like idea of, oh, I'll just make the intention in my heart, I'm not going to do the action, so I'll get the reward? That's not the way that it works, right? You still have to put the work behind it in order to get the reward. You still need to have, and this whole thing, this is what having sincere intention is. You can just think to yourself, oh, I would go to the masjid now, but I can't, so I won't. And that's it. It's a done deal. You can't just think it and you can't just say it to yourself, but it has to be a sincere and truthful intention within yourself. So then the idea becomes, well, how can we develop that sincere and truthful intention within ourselves? And that's something that I want to pass off to Suli to expand further upon.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the sincerity of our intentions and how do we test that and how do we show that when it comes to our intentions with every action that we do, if we want to see if it's sincere, it's pretty simple in my opinion. And that's basically the actions that you do outside when everybody's watching. Are you willing to put in that same work when nobody's watching, right? And that consistency that we display is very important when it comes to sincerity. And so from an Islamic perspective, for one, even with these restrictions that we have as of now, it's just about doing the next best thing. In the case of a hadith that kind of talks about this notion from Abu Dar, when it was referring to the poor companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was said that, O Messenger of Allah, the rich have taken away all the rewards. They observe the prayer as we do, they keep the fast as we do, and they give sadaqah, charity, from their surplus of riches. Upon this, the Prophet ﷺ said, has Allah not prescribed for you a course by following which you can also do a sadaqah? Verily, in every tasbih there is a sadaqah, every takbir is a sadaqah, every tahmid is a sadaqah, and so on and so forth. And so the point of this hadith, if you guys notice, is that when it comes to the rich companions at the time, right, they essentially could do what the poor companions could do, correct? But the only difference was that they had an advantage in terms of wealth. But what the Prophet ﷺ was trying to convey is that with every small action, it may seem small to us, but it is very big on the outside, all right? And so when we think of practical examples that we deal with on a daily basis, other forms of charity, right? Things that we could do, such as lifting somebody's luggage, or that first step we take towards the masjid, or that smile that we give to our brother, or just removing something as simple as removing something harmful from the road. Those actions that people can see, right? From the outside, we want to make sure that we're doing it in the inside when we're restricted, and the fact that we're also doing it with our families. And that's something that we often forget in this busy life. Uzair talked about, how when we're going on our daily lives, we often, don't have time for our families and that kind of matter. And so I feel like that same energy that you guys put in to your friends and, everybody that outside, we want to make sure that we put in that same consistency, we put in that same energy with everybody with all our families, right? And so other practical actions as well that deal with salah, praying your sunan mu'akkada, praying in congregation with your family members. When we were talking about things that you could do with your family more often from now on, is taking initiative. And that's something that we lack in Muslim society today, if you think about it, is we're always waiting on that next person to do it, but forgetting about ourselves, right? And so for once in our lives, let's try to not to focus on other people, focus on ourselves, taking that initiative to do better. And the number one thing is, it starts with the ibadah. Don't be lazy with it, right? And that biggest test as of now is making sure that we're not slacking when it comes to ibadah at home. And so in conclusion, we could say that these practical examples are a test for our sincerity. And so those prayers that we do at home, praying in congregation, things like that, that's something that we should all join in and encourage each other to do. And when it comes to initiative, when I was talking about, taking initiative when it comes to at home with your family, you should also take the initiative to encourage your friends as well through social media, through other platforms. I know a bunch of people do that already, but sometimes we could ask ourselves to do a little bit more. I feel like all of us could join in that. And then one final step that we could all take is that those physical actions, those bad habits that you have a bunch of time to think about ways that you could actually counter them. And in terms of, something small, it doesn't have to be something humongous. You're gonna go cold turkey when it comes to bad habits. But at the end of the day, it's about the intention and the amount of effort that we put into it. I'm pretty sure the hadith that Uzair mentioned, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, and there's also another hadith that talks about a'mal, the intentions. And that hadith is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ, that intentions are judged by their consequences. And if we want a desirable consequence, if we want to see if we're sincere with our intentions, it starts with us taking initiative. And so Uzair, kick it back to you. You got this.
All right, cool. So I guess there's one more point that I'm gonna bring up, and then inshallah I'll wrap up the halaqa. But I'm sure as we're all noticing now, we're all home more often, right? None of us are getting up and going to school. I know for a fact, like myself, for example, I've been working from home for the past 2 weeks, and so obviously, you're saving a lot of time, right? You're saving a lot of time from your commuting. You're saving a lot of time just by not going outside. You're saving all this time by not wasting time by going out with your friends and just killing time. So all this extra time that we have lying around, what are we doing with it, right? One thing that I wanted to bring up is and this is something that I've been noticing that a lot of like scholars and stuff have been saying online nowadays is make sure that we're making plenty of istighfar, right? We're just sitting around our homes a lot nowadays, right? How we should be making sure that we're spending the time wisely, right? And making istighfar it's a good use of all this extra free time that we have, that we're just not doing anything else, or that we're just wasting on the internet, or we're just wasting on our phones. The prophets who find a lot of istighfar in their records, right? In the records of deeds. And there's narrations that basically talk about how the prophet would seek forgiveness over 70 times a day. And this is, of course, this is our prophet, right? We know that he was sinless. So how many times should we be making forgiveness? How many times should we be seeking Allah's forgiveness throughout the day? We should be constantly be making istighfar throughout the day, and it's so easy to do as well, right? There's no prerequisite. You don't have to have a certain time slot. You don't have to be doing something in particular to make istighfar. You can just be making it. You can just be keeping your tongue busy with istighfar just throughout the day. And it's an easy way to remember Allah, and it's something that's just so easy to do. And like the hadith mentions that imagine you're standing in front of Allah on the day of standing, and your book of deeds is opened up, and every single action that you've ever done, it's right there in front of you, right? And it's right there in front of your creator. Imagine what kind of feeling that is, right? The kind of anxiety that that would have. But the prophet said that there's glad tidings for you, for those whose books are filled with plenty of istighfar. So, constantly be seeking Allah's forgiveness, especially during these times. And, there's going to be glad tidings for you when you're standing in front of your creator. Like, what else could you really ask for, right? What else do you have to be worried about? So, just to, I guess, go over some of the points that we talked about, make sure that throughout this time, just because we're not able to go outside and go to masjids, just make sure that your intentions are sincere, right? Make sure that whatever you're unable to do the next best possible thing, right? Make a promise to yourself that as soon as these situations are over, you're gonna make a change in yourself, right? Maybe before the coronavirus hit, you never took going to the masjid that seriously. But after all this stuff is over, make a promise to yourself that from now on you're not going to take that blessing. You're not going to take it as something that's owed to you, because it's not owed to you, right? It's a blessing that Allah has given you, and you should take advantage of that blessing and show thanks for it and take advantage of it, and show gratefulness to Allah for everything that you're given, basically, right? And constantly be in remembrance of Allah and constantly seek forgiveness throughout the day. And the last thing that I want to mention, and inshallah after that I'm going to wrap up, around this whole idea of being productive, and being productive, especially these days when it seems like our whole days are our own and we can do whatever we want throughout the day. It's to keep our day structured, right? Imam Ghazali said in his book, in the beginning of guidance, he talks basically about the importance of structuring your day. So Imam Ghazali talks about how you should set aside your day into predetermined sections, and each section of your day should be devoted to certain actions. So you should create this predetermined schedule, and you should hold firm to it, and you should be committed to the schedule, and you should be committed to following it. And this is how you gain barakah in your day. How many times, especially with quarantine now, does it feel like our whole days are wasted? Like we get up in the morning and it seems like we're just doing random things throughout the day, and by the time the night comes around, it feels like, wow, the day just flew by. I got absolutely nothing done, right? There's no blessings in that day. There's no barakah in that day. But if you if you set your schedule out from beforehand, and you put it in predetermined sections and you stick with it, then there's barakah in your day. And that's basically how you avoid having these wasteful days, by sticking to a predetermined schedule. Imam Ghazali said, "Don't be like animals," right? Because that's what animals do. Animals, when they wake up, they basically roam around and they figure out what they want to do as it comes, right? Something pops up in front of them, they decide to do it. They see something, they decide to go pursue that. But we're not animals, right? We're humans, and we're the best of creation, and so we have to be better than that, right? So we have to make sure that we're making the most of our time, and that we're devoting our days to predetermined sections, and that we're committed to those actions. So with that, inshallah, I'm gonna wrap up.
All right, Uzair, you could just read Surah Al-Asr.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. I think Sui has a couple of announcements, inshallah.
Yeah, sure. Jazakallah khair. Number one was there for a good talk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in it. I hope everybody benefited from it, inshallah. Um, I mean, uh, so yeah, definitely, I guess, wait, let me just stop the recording real quick.